Okay, this is going to be my hopefully fairly quick tutorial on how to turn a PDF page into a Cricut cut file. When you start up your Inkscape, it's going to look different than mine because I've customized where all my buttons and sizes are, and I've probably got a bunch of stuff over on the right here that you might not have in yours. But all of the buttons are going to have short keys or shortcut keys on them. So I'll let you know what I'm clicking when I am. Quick little overview, the tools that you're really going to be using in this point is your select, this little arrow here, which is just pick up the thing, move it around. The edit paths by node, which means if you're drawing a vector line, so it's got points along it, you're going to be able to actually move those points around. You're not going to be able to move the entire shape, but you can change the shape by touching those nodes. Then you're also going to come down here to the Bezier curves or straight lines. It's the little pen with the lines there. Those are the lines you'll be then moving around with the edit node tool. Beyond that, I don't think we're going to have many tools that you need. So just your select, your edit your nodes, and your Bezier curves. The first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to change the page that you're working on here into the Cricut mat. So you're going to be going to your document properties. That is this little guy here. It's Shift Control D, or the little page with the wrench on it. When you click on that, it should drop it over on the right hand side in that bunch of options that you have there. You can change the custom size of your page to whatever you want. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to say 11 by 23 because I don't remember how much is cut off the edges of the Cricut mat there. So that's going to be about the size there. If you want to zoom in or out on the page, you can just hit Control and then mouse wheel up and down. You also have a little tiny zoom over in the corner that tells you how far you're zoomed in. The next thing you're going to do, my screen recorder does not show dialog boxes, so you're just going to have to follow along with what I'm saying. You're going to come up to File, and you're going to Import. That's Control I on the list. When you're going to import, this is where you're actually looking for the PDF that you want to bring in. So go to the PDF, open it, and then you're going to get a little PDF import settings box that opens up. In there, you just have to pick the page that has the pattern pieces you want on it. So in this case, I'm using Trolley Knight's llama pattern for an example. So I'm going to go to page 18 out of 19 on that. I'm going to ignore every other option. I'm just picking page 18 out of 19 and I'm clicking OK. And there it is. It drops it in the corner. Right now, I do have my little arrow, my select tool, short key is S. That's selected, so I've got the little arrows around it and I can click and drag it. So I'm going to just drag it in on the Cricut mat there, and then I'm going to zoom in on one of the parent pieces. So that's just Control and mouse wheel zoom. Once I am close to it, I'm then going to go to my layers. Layers is Shift Control L, this little stack of 3 here. And I have the layers. This is just like Photoshop. I don't know what other art programs there are, but it has all the different layers on it. I'm going to lock the one that is currently there. That is the pattern that I just dropped in, that PDF. That's on layer 1. I'm going to change the opacity of the entire layer. So I'm in this little layer palette on the right. I'm going to change the opacity of the entire layer down to something low. And I'm going to create a new layer. There's a little plus sign right here. It's going to ask me to add a layer either above or below. It's going to ask for a name. As a little dialog box, I'm going to just call it Lines and click Add. And it's going to drop it in right here above. That is where we're going to create all of the vector lines that Cricut's going to end up needing. So I'm going to come over now. We're going to do our Bezier lines. That is this tool. When you click on that, that's short key B. it's going to give you a bunch of little points. And, oh, cool. Well, depending on your pattern, sometimes it'll snap to, sometimes it won't. Choli must have made hers here as a vector file, so it's actually grabbing these lines. So cool. Okay, new tool. The little magnet you have here, this is what toggles that snapping on and off. That is also the short key is the %sign, so you have to hit Shift 5 to get to that one. You can turn it on and off there. All of these other options following it are just what do you want to snap where. The major turn everything off and turn everything on is just that first little magnet there. So I'm going to turn everything off for now because I don't know if your pattern is going to have snapping or not. We're going to just assume it doesn't. So now you have our little pen, and we're going to do this now. You're just going to come around and click on each point. And we're just going to trace it through all the way around. And we're going to come back and like this line right here does not look right. We're just going to leave that for right now. It does not matter right now. I'm just clicking at points where the line is going to change. When I am done and I get back, there is a little square at the beginning. You're going to actually click right on the square. That will create a solid shape and not just one single line. So I click on that there, and there, oh, that's a terrible color. You've got a color bar down at the bottom here. These are all of your colors. When you mouse over them, it'll tell you to click to set the fill of this shape or shift click to set the stroke, the outline. So I'm going to shift click on black, and there we go. Why is it so, hang on. Oh, okay. Okay, so if for some reason it was super opaque, like I had right there, you can come up to your edit object colors or shift control F. That drops over for your fill and stroke there, and you can change your fill or your stroke just on these sub tabs here. So the fill is just going to be full fill and stroke are full opacity, so we can actually see it. It's not dimmed out there. The stroke style doesn't really matter. The line itself is like impossibly thin, and that's what Cricut is actually going to follow. Mine's fairly thick just because that's what I was working with, but we could actually make it very, very thin just to kind of show exactly where Cricut is going to be cutting. There, we'll do that. So now that we have all of our lines and we have our shape here, you could continue drawing on a different one if you want to. Your Bezier tool is still selected, but I'm actually going to come over to the nodes tool. That is the N. Yep, the short key is N. And then you can click on the little tiny shapes to move them around and put them into the right spot if you want. If you don't, or if they're all good and you just need to change these ones here, you click and you can drag this line up. That dragging now gives you these two little tools that you can move them around. So I'm going to just adjust things until it looks right by clicking and dragging on each of them. There we go. That's my shape. I'm done with that one. Now I'm going to take that little guy, and I've gone back to my select tool, or S, just to move it around. When you first click on it, this is your move and resize. That's what the little arrows look like. You can click and drag it around, do whatever you want there. I'm going to hit my undo arrow, Control Z, just to change it back. When you click on it a second time, now all the arrows change to skew and rotate. So I can actually rotate this one around because I care about the nap of my fabric and I want all the fuzzies to go the right way. So I'm going to just straighten it back up, and I'm going to just temporarily move it out of the way, I think. So, yeah, well, I'm going to actually Control and scroll wheel to zoom back down out just so I can see everything. And yeah, we're going to just put this up in the corner here. Now we're going to go to scroll back in, this time on the ear. Oops, too far. There it goes. Now we've got the ear that we're going to be cutting. So I'm going to go back to my Bezier tool, and I'm going to click, click, click. But now this curve here is really, really complex. That's going to be too much for just clicking and dragging the line into a curve like we did on the little snoot there. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to come about this far. This is just kind of practice. You'll figure out what works best. And if you click and drag, there you get the little handles so that you can pull out. And so I'm going to click and drag a couple of times around here. And if some of them don't look quite right because you've messed them up, we can change those as well later on. So I'm going to just click and drag, and when I get to the end, I'm going to click on my square again. So now we have a full shape. When we go back to our Edit Nodes tool, the N short key, now I can edit these lines again, and I can click and drag them into the curves that I want them to have. Or if this part down at the top of the ear here is super messed up, what I can do is I can click on one of these little nodes here, and now I can change these little handles again. These nodes have multiple forms that they can take. The ones that we have right now are little tiny square nodes with these circle handles, and when I move one handle, the other one moves as well. But I can make one handle short and one handle long, so that's one of the options. What you can do if you want to change some of these guys, like this one right here, I don't want this curve on it. I want it to just be a straight line. So I've clicked on it, and up at the top here, you have different options. So I can make them corner nodes, I can make them smooth nodes, symmetrical nodes so that these two handles stay the same length. When I make one longer, they both become longer, or auto smoothing, which is it just takes care of it for you. So I'm going to take this little guy and I'm going to make it into a corner node, and I'm going to double click twice just to make sure everything is there. The first click will change it, the second click like confirms it, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. This one I'm going to make auto smoothing. I'm going to do that. And let's do this one as well. I can change that guy around there. So you can just have a couple of options on how you want to treat these nodes. If you decide one's in the wrong spot, you can also click and move them around. But this is just pretty much a play around with it until everything looks right. If you need to add more nodes, what you can do is click on a segment. It'll highlight two of the nodes, and then up at the top you have the option to add a node there as well. So there we go. There's a node in the middle. If for some reason you don't want that node, there's too many that you've put in, you can click on the little minus side and it gets rid of that node there. So now that I have that shape and I'm fairly happy with it, I'm going to come back over to my select tool S, which gives me that box around it again. I'm going to click on it to get my rotation. I'm going to rotate it that way so the nap is going down, and then I'm going to control scroll just to make them small, move that guy out of the way, and then I'll come to the leg. There we go. I'm going to use my Bezier tool again. I'm going to click, click. I'm going to click and drag here and here and here. And then if for some reason I accidentally misclick at the end, oh no, I didn't actually click that box, but that's what I meant to do. If you hit enter at the end, it'll just finalize everything. So it's done. Now I can go and I can go back into my little edit tool. I get those little boxes back, and I'm going to just click and drag them on top. So now they're very close together. This works for Cricut. You can still cut and it'll cut that line there. There's no issues for that. What you can also do is select both of them. I'm just clicking and dragging a box around both of these nodes. Down, let's see, clicking, yep, down at the bottom here, it should say that there are 2 out of 6 nodes that are selected. So I've just selected 2 out of a total of 6 in this shape. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to take these 2 nodes and I'm going to join them into one. So it just says join selected nodes. Now they're one node. If I come back to this shape, it now says I have 5 total nodes. So 2 out of 5 are selected now. Can't actually do that. Okay. So it says like how many nodes are in the actual shape itself. I'm going to edit this one just a little bit further. There we go. So that looks not terrible. So I'm going to then go to my select, I'm going to zoom out way too far, move them to the side, right there. So now I've got my 3 parent shapes. There we go. And they all fit very easily in this area, so I know that they're going to work on the fabric there, and all the naps are pointing in the same direction, so it's going to be fine to cut. I'm going to come back to my layers, that 3 little lines right there, and I'm going to actually go to layer 1, and I'm going to hit my minus sign just to delete it. So that PDF is now completely gone. I can now rearrange these little guys, move them around to wherever they want to be. If I want to move 2 at the same time, I can click and drag around them with my solid arrow, my select tool, and now I've got both of them that I can move. The only other thing to really use as a tool would be your snapping. If you actually wanted to, all of those little nodes, those little diamonds that we made, they will actually try and like snap and touch each other. So if you want to try and line things up perfectly, you can actually like just have them jump into position. That's a hotkey that I use quite a bit when things are jumping around where they're not supposed to. You can actually hold something, like click down and drag it around, and then Shift 5 to get that % sign and turn it on and off in mid motion as you're moving things around. Once you're done with the pattern pieces, once you've gotten them all, you're just going to export this or save it as a SVG file. So just save or file, save as, and then pick a name for it as an SVG file. Then you'll go into Cricut, and I don't have Cricut on this laptop, but you'll go into the Cricut design space and just import an SVG file, and it should be good to go. If any part of this wasn't clear, just let me know. If there's something that I did not go over, also let me know that I can try and make another video real quick of that as well.